Here we go. Welcome into the Behind the Wall pregame show. We are here live, Campus Stakes, downtown on Pew Street. We're always here for home games. It is the definite last one of the season here, but make sure you guys stop on by Campus Stakes here. We are always here. We got events here. Last weekend on Saturday, we had a past player event. We had 4 or 5 past players, and then we had about 5 or 6 current players stop in, including Tyler Warren. My man Bo Perbula was here beforehand. Shout out, Bo. We had Tom DeLuca, all the guys. So make sure you guys always stop by Campus Stakes when you are in town here in State College. Without further ado, it is here, the Penn State playoffs. SMU is in town. I actually got a good drop. SMU is actually currently tonight. They will be practicing up in Lock Haven. So I got that word from actually a couple good sources that I talked to. So they're like what? Lock Haven's what, 45 minutes away, an hour? Yeah. So just up the road getting ready. I don't actually know which hotel they're staying in. My guess is they're probably staying up by Lock Haven or at the university. That would be my guess. But everything is obviously very expensive. We got not only home playoff game for the first time ever, we also have graduation. So a lot of hotels were already kind of sold out, and then they tried to jack up their prices even more, which was honestly one of the most interesting things that happened. I was just talking to one of the hotel owners just a couple minutes ago, and he said, I said to him, hey, it must be a really good weekend for you. And he said, yeah, it's pretty good, but actually because it's graduation weekend, I got locked into graduation weekend rates. I didn't get to lock into home playoff game rates because we didn't know. So a lot of rooms sold for $400 a night because that is graduation rates. But then now you could sell them for what? $1,200, $1,300 a night, but they were already locked in. So I thought that was kind of funny talking to him and just seeing what's going on. Because every once in a while, it felt like this with the USC game where all we talked about was travel and the length of the runway was the main discussion really the entire week. Now it's happened a couple of times, but now enter in the playoff game. I think between hotel prices, the fact that the college football playoffs has completely botched the handling of tickets, of student tickets, of parking passes. I've had countless people say, hey, Landon, I still haven't gotten any news on my ticket. Not only have I not got anything, like the money got taken out of my account, and I still don't have anything. So there has been a lot of problems there, but I can't remember a time that Penn State's just logistics have been talked about as much as they have been in really this past week as we start to gear up for this game. I think we will get close to 100K. There's some people, we got Pittsburgh beat writers that are out here saying we're only going to get to 75K. And that's not going to happen. It's Nittany Nation. It is a home playoff game. In the end of the day, it might seem like they're going to come all the time, but who knows? Like, who knows how many times we'll have a home playoff game? We might not have one for 3 years. Hopefully we're in that bye group. So how many home playoff games will you ever be able to go to at Penn State? Who knows? So I think that's why a lot of people are trying to make their way out and make sure that they get to this game. But I think there's a couple of reasons I'll say. I think number one, it is cold. Majority of people, and there's a lot of older Penn State fans, majority of people do not want to sit in below freezing weather. And then it's on top of that, if you've been here, you know what the valley wind is like. There is a big difference between it being windy. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. It gets windy on the bay. But when that wind gets trapped in the Penn State Valley, in the Happy Valley hills, it is brutal. It is the wind hurts, the wind chill. If you ever went to class here, you know, walking to class in December, January, February, it is almost it's like it's a game almost. I had to turn around the other day and walk backwards because the wind chill and snow in my face going to class was that significant. So I think that's a big factor. The fact it's December 21st is a huge factor. People have plans. They have Christmas plans. So I think that is really big. And then also the fact that most fans expecting us to win, and even expecting us to win against Boise State next week. And everybody, I know it's 1-0, but I've seen many fans talking about, I'm saving my tickets for the Orange Bowl. Listen, It's the college football playoffs. This season is wacky. Nothing is promised at this point. So, but I think that is a reason why we're not seeing a lot of people want to come to State College, because it's, hey, do I want to spend all this money to come to the home playoff game in State College round one? Or do I want to go out to one of the bowl games and spend my money, hopefully, like I said, none of this is guaranteed, but hopefully go to Arizona and hopefully go to the Orange Bowl. So I think all of those reasons kind of stacked up. And then obviously students are home for break. This was the week of finals. So some people are still here, but by the end of finals, most students are home. So we'll see what it looks like. Not too many tickets have been given away to the SMU fans. There was obviously talk about how the college football playoffs was controlling everything, and it's going to be just fine. I also, last week, I reported on my Twitter channel, if you want to check that out, at Landon Tangwall, there was a lot of conversation about the fact that the college football playoffs gets to control the scoreboard, the TV timeouts and what's played and all that stuff. I talked to some folks, and I put this out last week on Twitter, and I said, hey, the only thing that SMU will have is they will have the ability to play a little hype little hype thing on the Jumbotron when they walk out, and it's probably going to get drowned out by boos anyways, and then their band gets to perform at halftime. That's perfect. And a week later, we just got the news that is indeed the truth. That is the only things that SMU will be able to do. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, their intro is going to get booed out because the fans are going to be into it. And I would even argue as far as to say that them getting to play their intro on the scoreboard probably brings our fans into it even more, because it's kind of like a challenge. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna play our stuff at your stadium. Let's see how you like that. I don't think the Nittany faithful is going to be too happy about it. So I think they get drowned out with boos there. And then on the other side, hey, let their band play. Those kids who they'll probably never have an experience like that again. They work their butt off to be in the SMU band. Let them play at halftime. I don't have a problem with that at all. So that's cool with me. Let's talk some comments and questions. And if you guys, anybody listening on the radio, you can check me out on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. We're live on all accounts at the moment, all at Landon Tangwall. So check those out if you want to throw something in the comment section. I Am Groot says, who does the cold weather hurt more? I mean, I think obviously naturally it's SMU. And if you look at their weather down in Dallas, Texas at the moment, they were just practicing the other day in shorts and T-shirts. It was 72 degrees in Dallas, and it was comfortable. A lot of those guys that went to Dallas, they went there because it is close to home, and that is where they like to be, in the warmth. So the answer is them. They do not want to be in the cold. Most of our players are from the Northeast. Like, that is generally guys stay in their regions. So no, majority of their players do not like the cold weather. I can tell you that for sure. And that kind of brings me into something interesting about this SMU team. I talked about this on my pregame show, but when I looked, I was doing some research. I'm looking at their roster, and I see that 20 out of their 22 starters are from the transfer portal. And I thought it was really interesting because I think, number one, what that represents is the ability in the new age college football to just build a team if you want to. SMU clearly has the money, as we've seen in the past that they got in trouble for. Now they get to use it legally, but SMU has the money. They have the support, and it was like, okay, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go from here now with kind of how we build the team? Because they weren't doing very well in recruiting, and it was like, okay, they were finishing mid-80s, mid-90s in recruiting. They went all in on the transfer portal, and now the past 2 years, they're finishing once again in the 80s and 90s for high school recruitment, but they're finishing inside the top 15 as far as recruiting classes out of the transfer portal. So they have entirely built their team, their roster through the transfer portal, and it worked out well for them. Look, that is where we have different identities. And this is also something I've talked about. The cultures are different. And a lot of people have asked about the Bo Prabula situation. And we are going to have Chris Buchanani come in here soon. And so I have a little partner in crime here to talk a little ball. But I want to talk about this first. Preston Stone, SMU's backup quarterback, is playing in the game. I mean, is he playing? I don't know. He's a backup. We probably won't see him. But he will be on the sideline with SMU. He is in the transfer portal currently, going to his next destination. And that's okay. That's what SMU wants to do. But that is their culture. Their culture is built on transfer portal culture. That's how they are. Now, that's not Penn State. And that is why a lot of people have asked, why is Preston Stone, their backup quarterback, playing in this game, but he's in the transfer portal, while our backup quarterback went to the transfer portal and he does not want to play in this game. And it's not that Bo does not want to play in this game. It's that essentially he can't, because it has been Franklin's rule from day one, and it is made quite clear when you are a player, if you are to enter the transfer portal, you are not welcome back. I mean, well, you can come back, but as you're in the portal, you're not welcome on the team, because you got one foot out the door, and Coach Franklin does not do that. I can promise you that. So that kind of contributes to all the reasons, and we can talk about the whole Bo Prabula thing too. Okay, we got a lot of questions. This all just updated. Bear with me, guys. Here, we'll stop talking about Bo. I'll just start taking some questions from the chat. Like I said, if you want to comment, you can comment on YouTube or Twitter at Landon Tangwall. Rich says, how about Penn State women's volleyball team playing Sunday for the national title? Let me just say, I'm tired because I had to get up at 6:30, and I stayed up for that entire women's volleyball semifinals game against Nebraska, which I thought was easily the best. I just said basketball. Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. Volleyball. That was easily the best volleyball game I've ever seen in my life. Now, I haven't watched that many. I have to make a couple statements first. Women's volleyball, way better than men's volleyball. I don't think that's that much of a controversial statement, but that was fantastic game. Jess Merzick is a baller. Caroline Jaravicious clearly has the Penn State winning in her blood. Shout out Joe Jaravicious, though, had the undefeated season. He was not a national champion. So Caroline Jaravicious with the opportunity to be the first Jaravicious that is a national champion at Penn State. That is pretty neat. Someone said, Ivy Ward, I really enjoyed watching your podcast. Hope PSU dominates in the trenches and slows down SMU's tempo. Congrats on graduating. Thank you so much for that. I'm excited. Graduation will be following the game on Sunday. A bunch of the guys are also graduating with me. So that would be really cool. And yeah, I think you're right. Penn State, that is where we win. We dominate in the trenches. And then also I would venture that is the route SMU is going to go. They are not more talented than Penn State, but they have a little bit of speed. I think they'll try to go hurry up offense and be that type of try to look like Oregon, I guess, a little bit. I mean, they don't have half the talent Oregon has, but you get the vibe. I think that is the route they'll try to go, because they know that we are more talented than SMU. SMU, that's not a secret. We have better players. So they have to say, okay, how can we find little ways to win? I would guess tempo and going hurry up will be their answer. Now let's see if Tom Allen put some patches over that defense that we saw in the Big Ten championship, which I am sure that he did. My man Jay said, heck no, this is history here from Atlanta. I love it. I'll be there soon. Everybody's coming in. Bold prediction. Big Ten Spirit says, we build enough separation that Grunkmeyer takes over to start the fourth. I mean, look, that's entirely possible. And I think if we do get up by enough, we will want to get Grunk reps, because as I said, where we sit now, Grunk has not stepped out foot on a college football field. And that is a bit of a problem, because I told this story on my pregame show. As a player, you might say, okay, what games would have Ethan Grunkmeyer played in? All right, Maryland and Kent State. Does a couple fourth quarter snaps really help him from those games? My answer is yes, because when I went in, I blacked out and for my first play, and I don't remember any of it. And it's that mental hurdle of actually being in a game and actually playing and being like, oh, shoot, okay, I am actually out here playing college football at the highest level. So to have that realization, for that to be your first snaps in the college football playoffs, definitely isn't necessarily the best thing. And look, we did what we had to do. Franklin decided to put all his eggs in the Bo basket and say, hey, I'm going to try to get him as many snaps as possible to keep him happy, to try to keep him here. It didn't work, and that's okay. He gave it his best shot. You have to at least try there, because how important, and Franklin said this, how important Bo was to the offense. So I'm excited to see what we're going to do with the loss of Bo, because Franklin said it is such a big part of our offense, that Bo package, that we're going to use it just with a little bit different chess pieces, is what he said. So how I see it, I don't think it'll be that much Nick Singleton. I think that just means more snaps for Tyler Warren, because when we tried the whole Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Wildcat quarterback thing, it didn't really work. there was false starts. Because you got to think it's already hard enough for the offensive line. You are used to the cadence of the quarterback, the same Drew Aller, ready, go. That is the cadence that I'm used to. I know. Okay, now we add in Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, his voice is a little bit deeper. His clap is a little bit different. Ready, go. So it's a little bit different. Okay, that's fine. But now you start adding in Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. That's just too many voices, and there's too much opportunity to mess up, essentially. And when you have that many people trying to play quarterback. So that's why I think it'll mainly be Tyler Warren that will see snaps. I'm curious, you guys, let me know in the comment section, how many snaps are you predicting for Tyler Warren at quarterback? I think I'll go anywhere. I think I'll go 5 to 6 snaps. I think it could be up anywhere 6 to 8 or even higher. Let's see. To be fair, it's a college football game and we are hosting, so it does only seem fair, neutral with some theatrics, even though we have crowd advantage. Yeah, I mean, look, giving them some stuff, they made it to the college football playoffs, and that's generally how most college, NCAA tournaments that are not tournaments, that are playoffs, they try to make it as even field as possible, even court as possible. So they generally don't try to have the home field advantage to be domination because they want it to be as fair as possible. If we beat SMU, will that be considered a big win for Coach James Franklin? No, probably not in terms of the national media spotlight. Let's say Franklin were to, that's the conversation to have at this point, I guess. We're going to have 2 games, and I know 1-0, but we're going to have 2 games here where we are favored by close to 10 points. If you average the 2 games between SMU and Boise, it's about a 10-point favorite. Penn State is. James Franklin is really good at those. He has won those games for a long time. He hasn't had too much problems losing the games that he should just handedly win. Shout out Mike Tomlin. As a Steelers fan, I want to gouge my eyes out when we lose to teams that are just awful. So it's definitely a credit to Franklin for having the guys ready and that 1-0 mentality. I've talked about the 1-0 mentality and kind of what that means and how it keeps the players. And as much as it's kind of corny and you think as a fan you might get tired of hearing it, but the players, I'll tell you, you start to feel it. It creeps into the locker room. And when guys start talking about the game that's 3 weeks away, the older guys look at them and say, hey, lock in, 1-0. We're just focused on today. So, but to answer your question, I don't think this would be considered necessarily a big win for James Franklin in the national media spotlight. I think it would be a big win, but he's just not going to get that credit because it is SMU and they are first year in the ACC. I just don't see it. Jeremy Nork, love it. Cape St. Clair Elementary represent. Wow. Shout out Arnold, Maryland back at the crib. Waybeck said, I'm a huge fan of the Generations of Greatness uniforms. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so Penn State posted that they posted the Penn State helmet with the numbers on the side right at the gates of Beaver Stadium in the snow. So it is being heavily discussed that we are probably wearing the Generations of Greatness uniforms. And I think we should, because this is the last time we can control that. Once you start going to other places, you don't know which uniforms you're going to be, whether you'll be the home team or the away team. Obviously, we will be wearing white now, not next week, but it would be December 31st against Boise State because we would be the away team. So here's an opportunity to throw on the really, I think, the coolest jerseys we have, pay some homage, and it'll be really cool. So I do expect us to throw on those Generation of Greatness jerseys. Jonathan asks, how many students do you think will be at the game and how that might affect the atmosphere? Yeah, I was just talking about this. Look, there's going to be less students. That is a fact because students go home. Now, I will tell you, a lot of students didn't go home, and a lot of students also that live in the surrounding PA area. And if you went to Penn State, about half of the population lives outside of Philly. That is pretty much all you hear when you ask someone where they're from at Penn State. A lot of those people, from my understanding, so you didn't have any finals. You went home earlier last weekend, and then they're making their way back up for this game. So I think we will still have a lot of people. I think we will be right around 100K attendance. And I actually mean 100K. I don't mean like when we're playing some scrub team. Like, I'll never forget my first time as a freshman year. We're playing like Ball State in 21, and there's like maybe 80, 85K, and the stadium attendance comes up on the screen, and it's like It's like 108,000 people. I'm like, that's such a lie. So sometimes they inflate those numbers a little bit, but I genuinely do think we will be right around 100,000. I think we will get there. All right. Jason, I saw T. Frank isn't broadcasting outside. Are y'all going to be broadcasting tomorrow? Yeah, me and T. Frank will be live tomorrow. We are not going to be outside on the BJC, outside of the BJC ticket office, just because it's so cold and windy that they don't trust the equipment to work right. So when I got that text an hour ago, as I was actually on my way to come do this show, I actually just said a prayer, because now your boy does not have to sit out for 2 hours in the freezing, almost little snow. But I talked about the wind earlier, and it's also in the shade at the BJC, because the BJC like sits over top of where we do our show. So it was brutal doing a morning show in the cold, windy environments outside of the BJC. So yes, we will still be live. Don't worry, you can check that out on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. But no, we will not be outside. All right. Dr. Murphy Weight Loss says, is Penn State peaking as a university right now? Ooh, it's an interesting question. I mean, look, we're going to win a wrestling national championship, because we always do. We have a really good shot here to get it in volleyball for the first time in 10 years. And now here's an opportunity in football to really cement ourselves. And then basketball's turning all the way around. I mean, you got to tip your cap to Pat Kraft at this point, because Pat Kraft is doing a phenomenal job as a leader. And it's not easy to lead, 30, 31, 32. We have some of the most athletic programs in the nation. Look down at Alabama, those SEC schools. My man, how you doing? Great to see you. We got a couple folks in here supporting the show. Make sure you guys make your way on down to Campus Steak. Sometimes I forget to do ads in here because I just go live the entire time. Booch, what's up, brother? We just got Booch in here. Don't even need this. Booch, listen, I was just telling him I don't really generally even go to break because we get so many questions here. It's just hard for me to even take a stoppage.
Seamless. I'll just jump right in.
Oh, there we go. That sounds
congratulations
good.
to you about to join the family.
Thank you. Yeah, how part stuff. Of the other way. Yeah, part of the Penn State Alumni Association. So yeah, I'm definitely blessed for that one, and was happy to get school done, Booch, because I'll tell you what, I had a 75 in Knies 100, right?
Okay.
And so, I saved this Knies 100 class. I'm a broadcast journalism major. I'm not going to sit here and act like comm is that difficult. I had a pretty easy school life here at Penn State because I started out as a business major.
Okay.
I went into accounting 211.
You're like, I'm playing football. Enough of that.
Yeah. And I go into the accounting 211 exam. I laughed at the Pollock Testing Center. I clicked C for every single answer. And I texted my advisor. I said, hey, we're going to comm right now. So the expectation was we're going to take easier classes. So they tell me, hey, you're broadcast journalism. You have to have a minor. So I said, let's just pick like sports science, sports. Why not? Pick the word that has sports in it. And come to find out, it's easy, except you have to take Knies 100. And once again, you think, 100 level class.
Yeah.
There's a couple factors there. Knies 100 at Penn State is held Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. So they're challenging me my last semester of college to say, hey, you're not going to show up to the 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you're damn right that I genuinely did not show up a lot of days. I'm over here, totally working on film breakdown.
Yes, sir.
So it got a little unchy. I get to my final exam and Canvas, the software that Penn State uses. A lot of colleges use it. You can type in your grades and you can put in a hypothetical grade. So I knew exactly what I needed going into the exam. I just needed above a 55%. So basically, just don't tank your final exam.
There you go.
And I went in,
I was feeling, for degree, my friend.
Exactly. Except, now those.
I like that though. So a journalism major and a Knies minor.
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's me.
That's you,
brother.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Print. Print.
Not okay. Well, we'll have to. Well, I guess we'll have to talk. I didn't know we're part of the comm brotherhood.
They're fascinating radio for the folks who are watching this. People really give it down. I assure you.
Yeah, right. Well, you just finished up on the radio, right?
I did.
Okay. What was kind of the gist of your hour on the show? Or was it 2 hours?
No. Just an hour leading up to you. I didn't even I got so wrapped up in talking about the playoff game. I didn't even mention the women's volleyball team, which I heard you shout out right at the top of the broadcast. Unbelievable story.
Was that not one of the craziest volleyball games you've ever seen in your life?
And Katie Schumacher was but contemporary of mine. We were in school at the same time. She actually had a couple of classes with my roommate, so may or may not have tipped a few back with Katie back in the day. But I am so excited to see what she is doing as a protege of Russ Rose, who's now running this program with the same integrity and success level that Russ had, and seeing her battling through everything she is right now and still leading that team. And by the way, absolutely killing it on the recruiting trail. Like, you think this team is good? Wait until you see what's waiting in the wings. It's awesome. It is one of the great Penn State success stories, so I love it.
It's really exciting. We got a couple of stories there. First off, Jess Merzick is a straight-up baller. I think she has 20 kills. And then the story that everybody loves, Caroline Jaravicious.
Yeah, man.
Had, I think, a career high 15 kills, I believe, last night. Might have been. It was 15 or higher, but it was her career high, and she has shown up in the big games. It was in the Big Ten championship, and then in this game were her biggest games. And funny enough, both of those games against Nebraska, which is where Caroline Jaravicious transferred from. So, hey.
By the way, I heard you say that she would be, if they win on Sunday against Louisville, the first national champion at Penn State in the Jaravicious family. Well, the New York Times would disagree, my friend.
Oh, okay, that's right, because they crowned Penn State national champions, right?
Yes, okay, we should have claimed that yesterday.
You're dang right about that. But yeah, absolutely, I'm definitely going to put that on Twitter shortly. So don't anybody steal it from me. But yes, Caroline Jaravicious is going to be hopefully the first Jaravicious to be a true national champion here at Penn State. Let's see. Yeah, everybody's talking about the cold weather. And actually, so we'll talk about this for a second. Something that I thought was interesting, the average SMU game, average temp is like 70 degrees on the season. So now their coldest game yet was in North Carolina, which was the ACC championship. And so I was talking to the head SMU guy for On3. I had him on my podcast.
Okay.
And he said they had about 5 to 6 drops like all year. Like they did pretty well for Kevin Jennings. They had 5 or 6 drops in that ACC championship game. So people are saying, how does the cold affect them? I can't necessarily say that is the reason why they had drops. Maybe they just weren't ready for the challenge. Correlation doesn't always equal causation.
Sure.
But still, I think they're going to have an effect because, and I was talking about this, I don't know if you caught this, right at the very beginning of the show, I was saying, they obviously have a lot of transfers, but for the most part, players stay within their region. They stay kind of northeast if you're if you're born in the Northeast. So generally, these guys are playing at SMU because they like to play in the Dallas, Texas, or down their region. They like to be warm.
A lot of transfers do so in part so they can get closer to home.
Right. They even get, actually, you're right. They migrate closer. So I guess when people are saying who has the advantage or who's more ready, I mean, look, this is Penn State weather. This is PA gritty central PA weather. SMU, I don't think they win any parts of this, Booch. I mean, like, I don't think it plays that much of a factor into it. But also, you get smacked in the mouth and you're down 10-0.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot harder.
It's like Noble said on Obligatory this week. He said, pop them in the mouth early and just send the message to these guys. You had a nice season. You do not want to play football today. And then just let it go downhill on you. I know we've not been a great first quarter team through a lot of the year, although I pointed out after the Ohio State game, probably the lowest point for this team in their season, they came out like gangbusters in front of the whiteout crowd against Washington in the first quarter. I think they scored on their first 4 drives of that game. And so now here we are coming off a loss again. And for the first time, it's lose and go home. So like that, everything leading up to this moment, it was to get us in position to be in front of this crowd in survive and advance mode. And so we saw some of the best football from this team as they picked themselves back up off the mat in the regular season. If we can see it again tomorrow, coming off that close loss to Oregon, I think the chance for this to, if you'll pardon the pun, snowball on the Mustangs. Sorry.
Well, it might be.
It's pretty high.
Butch, it might be. Like it snowed a lot today in State College, but it wasn't cold enough to stick. I don't think it wasn't but it is going
for
to be
aesthetics only.
Yeah, exactly. For anybody coming into town, you got a nice little State College welcome snow, and I think we might even get a little bit of a dusting tomorrow, kind of into the morning, but nothing that is all going to affect the game or anything like that. Booch, I guess I want to ask right now where we sit. I'm sure you've talked about it a lot, and I listened to the podcast, by the way. That was a great one. If you want to shameless plug real quick.
Yeah. The Obligatory PSU podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We talked about Bo Buell in the last episode, and it was like our most successful episode ever. And then we just try to call it like we see it.
Yeah.
Not just deal with what genuinely is a complicated issue for the players right now, for Bo, for the fans, and speak for everyone. It's not cut and dry, in my opinion.
It is. And just how, there was obviously people that were mad, but I think the majority of Nittany Nation understood why Bo. And everybody has talked about it.
They understood and they were mad.
Yeah. And you can be. You can be. There's no reason.
Yeah, it sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, that is the world we live in now. Your players can now just leave mid-season, or not even just mid-season, on your playoff push, and not just leave because they just want to. They're essentially forced to. And like I said, you can't help but almost feel bad for them because he's trying to go start somewhere. Like Bo Pavula wants to go be good. And I think most of Nittany Nation also wants him to go do well, just how we wanted Will Levis to go and succeed. But when now
unless he stays in the Big Ten.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry,
that is a fact. And hopefully Bo does not go to like Iowa, because I saw the visits are rolling there.
And so I heard you talking about Preston Stone on the way in, the backup for SMU, who's also in the transfer portal and is going to be part of the roster tomorrow. If you look at the kind of offers he's fielding, and if you look at the trips Bo is taking, it's clear Bo sits way higher than Preston Stone on the pecking order of available transfer quarterbacks. I mean, he's looking at Mizzou, Ole Miss, UCF, which, people can say hardy UCF, but the Big 12 is so wide open from year to year. I think you're going to see a lot of movement in that conference, and then certainly Indiana, Iowa. And I still think, man, with Garrett Green in the transfer portal, I think West Virginia and that Rich Rodriguez offense, I think that's a dark horse to get into the bidding for him before it's all said and done.
Ooh, okay. I like that one, Booch. That's a good call right there. Yeah, I mean, I think, look,
but he's in demand. I mean, if he's not the top guy, he's close to
right. And that's this is such a unique situation. I don't think will happen many times where a backup quarterback is in this high demand, because we have known as Penn State fans that Bo Pavula is a starting caliber quarterback. We just have the quarterback that could have went first round this year and will probably, if he plays like he can, be the number one pick in the draft next year after next season.
Sure.
So that is the guy that was in front of Bo, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if we're talking wide receiver, a linebacker, a DB, yes, any of those scenarios, I am mad at the person in Bo's situation. But because Bo is going to be a star quarterback and is very sought after, like you said, it would be such a mistake for him to say, yeah, I'll wait at Penn State and go into the portal 2 days after we win the national championship, and then it's January 25th. And most teams are starting winter workouts.
Sure.
Are you telling me top teams like Mizzou and people that actually want to compete are okay with not having a quarterback to start their winter workouts? And it's like, oh yeah, Bo said he's gonna come. Like, he'll be there eventually. He promised. No, I don't think so at all. So I'm completely fine with it. I think we'll be all right. Now the question is, and this is something I want to talk about, Booch. Are you? I'm not going to use the word mad, but are you a little annoyed at James Franklin for not getting Ethan Grunkemeyer a couple reps at Maryland and at Kent State?
Yes, but not retroactively. I was annoyed with him in the moment. I think in general, over the whole 11 years he's been here, a complaint, a mild one, but a complaint I've had about James is that I think he leaves the starter in the game too long when it's starting to get out of hand, and then is very slow to pull the trigger on putting the emergency guy in. And when he does, almost never does that guy get to do anything other than hand off to the fifth string tailback. Exactly because of when you talk about what a premium the position is at and how much movement there is now. Like, if you're a top program, you basically have to be looking to bring in a guy who you think can start for you at quarterback, at least one in every recruiting cycle, because 2 out of every 3 of them aren't going to play many snaps for you. They're going to be gone. So you got to get these guys ready to play. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I was disappointed that in games where Penn State was running away with it, they didn't let Grunkemeyer get out there and not just take snaps, but operate the offense.
Yeah, because I talked about this. I even said it earlier on the show, but I'm telling you, even if he was just out there handing the ball off, I feel better, Booch, because as I said, I blacked out. A lot of guys have said that they blacked out on their first play.
Yeah.
I would rather Ethan Grunkemeyer not, and obviously, God forbid anything happens to Drew. Let's just keep him safe, and hopefully this is an actual non-conversation the rest of the playoffs. But let's say he has to come in the semifinal game, and you have yet to take a snap. That's not the greatest world. Yeah, exactly. Now, the good news is, and like I said, 1-0, I get it. Good news is we have 2 matchups where you could maybe have backups in the playoffs, Booch. And somehow, even more likely, you could have your backups in next week in the quarterfinals too.
Well, remarkably, I want to know, Landon.
Okay,
your crew want to know.
SMU.
SMU.
Got you.
Remarkably, we saw Georgia somehow, inexplicably, hold off Texas in the SEC title game, playing their backup, who is going to have to be the man for them going forward now, because Carson Beck is donezo.
That's going to be it.
Which, by college football playoff rules, we do have to mention means that Georgia's actually out.
Yeah, right.
They can't be in the playoffs with a backup quarterback.
Replace them with someone else.
I was thinking about that today, as they've made official now that Carson Beck's going to require some kind of surgery on his elbow. So it's not just round one; he's done.
Wow.
For this season. If they would have lost that game to Texas, they would have to basically come out and once and for all admit that it was about conference brand and not about situation, because they would have put Georgia in the playoffs regardless.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm in total agreement with you there. Yeah, I think we have all seen how bad the SEC bias is. And you know what? I'm going to completely switch gears because I've wanted to talk about this. Joe Klatt came out and just completely poked the bear and just he wanted to troll. I guess he wanted Twitter impressions. I don't know what was going on.
I think that's 100% what it is.
Like he was genuinely wanted impressions, just wanted to troll people. But if you didn't see it, Joe Klatt basically came out and said, "Oh, Penn State, now you can do a whiteout at noon just because it's a play." Yes, because it is a playoff game, Joe Klatt. Is it that hard to understand that we don't want to do a whiteout against UCLA at noon?
Yeah.
I mean, but basically he made it. So here's my question though. You alienate basically half of the fan base that is going to watch you, because let's think about it. Fox Big Noon does not touch the West Coast teams because they can't do 9 a.m. So they're not going to touch Oregon. Even if USC is good, Fox Big Noon can't go out there. So now you have Michigan might be on the rise. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But you genuinely really just have Penn State and Ohio State right now.
Yep.
Almost half of your Big Noon kickoffs next year will be Penn State. And now it is at the point where on Twitter, fans are genuinely trying to boycott, like where Big Noon kickoff sets up next year.
Yeah.
I don't think there's always going to be people that will go because it's an attraction and it's there. But I don't know. I think it'll be pretty small, the crowd there. But I mean, I don't know what the thought process is like pissing off one of the top fan bases that watches your Fox is synonymous with Big Ten. So I guess what I'm saying is you got all these SEC heads that at ESPN are just, they're just like kissing. They're kissing all the SEC teams. They're doing all the love. Why would Fox not back the teams and the universities that they cover? They still want to dump on us. It's just like, you just want to dump on the Big Ten. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm Fox, from their perspective, I'm like, hey, did your athletic director cash the $80 million check? If so, like, shut up about it. Like, where do you think that money came from? Right? Like, we're stealing money from advertisers with these noon kickoffs, and it is going directly to you. So just deal with it. That's life. It's not fair. I get it. On the other hand, like the product of college football is decidedly different from the NFL in certain ways. And one of them is kind of the tradition and pageantry around it. The experience of a live game is not just great for the people in attendance. It presents so well on TV. If you've got a great home environment at Penn State or like South Carolina or Death Valley at night, like these places, it makes the televised product better. And for you to be antagonistic against that is stupid. And again, my whole shtick about it is so frustrating that the SEC signs an exclusive deal with ESPN, and immediately that is just like state-sponsored, like Soviet-era media, right? Yeah. Like they will just lie straight up if it's favorable to the SEC. And like even guys who used to have like integrity, like, Kirk Herbstreit, like just lie, bald-faced lying directly into the camera, like doesn't even blink, doesn't look like he's reading a hostage video. Like they just do not care. They will say things that are demonstrably false if it helps the SEC, and they'll do it gladly because that's where their financial bread is buttered. Meanwhile, Fox, for whatever reason, has decided that Joel Klatt's Twitter impressions are more important, and they just sent him out there to poke the bear. Of course, like we're all cheap dates, and we take the bait every single time I see our fan base in his mentions, and I'm like, guys, the algorithm doesn't know if you're agreeing or disagreeing. They're just seeing engagement. So as long as you keep feeding the trolls, they're going to keep throwing you bait.
They are. No, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of the world we live in now, where. That's what I think. I realized that just kind of getting into social media. It's like, if I get out there and just try to like kind of poke at someone on Twitter, it's like a million impressions, but it's like, I'm going to put like all this time into like whatever this video, and I'm going to make this cut up with this film breakdown of showing you how, Abdul can take advantage. It's like, I don't really care about that. But it's like, oh, I'm trashing Joel Klatt. It's like, oh, I'm at him.
I fired off, off the cuff, one tweet about hotel prices this week. It's done better numbers than anything I ever have put out or probably ever will again. It's just there's no rhyme or reason. By the way, shouts to the guy in the comments, the SMU fan that just says pony up. SMU, Ooh. Good luck tomorrow. That is the nicest comment I've seen from an SMU fan. You go into the comment section on the obligatory this week. It's not pretty, man.
Really?
Oh, they were calling us fat. I mean, it was just they were getting personal. It was brutal. It was tough.
Really? Because I hadn't had too much trash talk from SMU.
Here's the thing. I mean, it's and he wouldn't mind me saying this. It's 100% Kevin Horn. He provokes them, and then we all catch the strings.
I think Kevin Horn provokes everybody, actually.
No doubt.
Yeah. So. No, I still, I will say the worst fan base is Oregon far and away. I don't know if I've ever experienced anything like that. I don't know what you got.
You were not around when Rutgers joined the Big Ten.
Oh God, that
let me tell you,
there was fans? That's a thing.
Yeah, there was nothing like that. Rutgers in 2014 was something.
Were they any good?
No, but that was their first year in the conference. And, there is this perceived regional quote unquote rivalry. Any school that's in Penn State's recruiting footprint. They all, Temple, Rutgers, Maryland, the Pitt, they all can't stand Penn State. And so they understood that with Penn State coming off sanctions and the game being played in East Piscataway, that was their shot. If they were going to put a marker down, it was going to be Penn State with 65 scholarships. And so they just pushed all the chips to the center of the table. And brutal. That one and Temple in 2013. Listen, I'm a Philadelphia fan, an Eagles guy.
Was that the game that Hack got sacked?
Yeah, 75 times. Yes. Yeah, you mix the Philly fan base behavior with the resentment of Temple grads at Penn State. That one was rough.
I was going to say, because most people, no offense to anybody, but most people, that's kind of the joke. If you people that go to Temple want to have went to Penn State.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's the joke that's out there.
I'm not going to shade Temple.
Yeah.
Other than we're playing them in football, I'm an Owls guy. I hope Adam Fisher gets that basketball program turned around. So yeah,
absolutely.
With nothing but love for Temple grads.
Yeah, no doubt. Charles said you mentioned the left tackle's tell and how much of a pregame film is trying to see if a player has a tell on the offense or the defense. So yeah, what Charles is referring to, I broke down the film of SMU and probably should have just not said anything.
Yeah. I was like, don't put this out there. What are you doing?
Listen, I'm like, this is exclusive content that I'm trying to provide over here.
It's too late. I mean, he can't fix it in a week.
Oh, no, he can't. He can't. I don't think he can. Now, the problem is, did that get back to him? Almost certainly, I have to say.
No question.
Probably.
Yeah.
So that's a my bad to Deion Barnes and the company because I'm sure they saw that too. To answer your question, there is someone that their job, it's generally the GA. It's like, hey, watch the film and try to find tells. And it's hard to find tells. I heard a story. Who was Penn State playing? Someone basically mailed in back. This is well before social media. And I forget who we played. I don't remember the whole. Yeah, the story starting to come back to you.
Yes,
we were playing someone, and they mailed in a letter and was like, "Hey, the quarterback you're playing, when their stance is completely even, they're running the ball. When the left foot is back a little bit, it's a pass for the quarterback." I forget which quarter. I don't remember what game it was, but some former letterman for Penn State was telling me this story, and they said they looked at the tape, and sure enough the guy that wrote in was right, and that there's a tell. So. There's stuff that goes into that all the time, and I'll tell you.
So if Abdul Carter can't get any pressure on Jennings tomorrow, that's you.
It's actually it's directly my fault. Yeah, I thought about that, and I was like, do I want to put this in there? Shout out Bill for the blog. He told me I was like I shouldn't have, and he was like, no. He was like, that was the right decision.
No. Yeah. Look, again, if their coaching staff at this point in the season hasn't been able to self-scout to that point, that's on them. Yeah, I mean, they know. I'm sure they know.
They have to at least a little bit. But...
Can I flip it around and stay on the line of scrimmage, but ask you about something that's been a topic of conversation all week, and deservedly so, is SMU's statistical run defense. They're up at tops in the country in terms of defending the run. But then you go, and I did talk about this a little bit in the last hour on the radio, you look at their competition. And I mean, you play who you have on your schedule, right? But the best win for SMU this year is either by a touchdown over Louisville or by 1 point in overtime versus Duke, where they turn the ball over 6 times. I mean, they just don't have an impressive schedule of opponents. So how much, as you've gone back and looked at it, do you think the run defense is legit talent, who could stack up against Penn State's offensive line with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen in the backfield, and how much of it is that they're in the ACC and they haven't even really played the cream of that conference, which kind of stinks.
Yeah, so here's a couple things that go into it. And I'll say this, number one, SMU's entire defensive line, their entire starting defense is all transfer portal. All the guys, even the depth pieces are. So they got some guys that you'll see big number 94 tomorrow. That is a transfer from Georgia. Like that is why, and I've talked about this, NIL evened out the playing fields because the second and third string guy at Georgia said, okay, I can't play here, but I'm going to go play at SMU, and I'm going to pretty much start there and have an impact. So like those are the players they're plugging in. Georgia's second stringers, Alabama's second stringers. Those are damn good players, Booch. Those were guys that were just waiting their turn to play a little bit. So, but overall, watching the tape, they're fundamentally really sound in the run game. It's like classic what you're supposed to do, like strike, extend, try to read it, and make the play. They do that well. Now, I will say I mainly watched the Clemson game. I don't think Clemson is that good. I think Clemson is going to lose by 21 plus tomorrow. So I don't know. I don't give out bets or anything like that. Nothing official, but I watched a ton of Clemson because I was studying SMU, and I didn't feel like there was no domination. They barely snuck out of that game. SMU was clearly just smaller than them, didn't have the same type of talents, but they just still couldn't get it done. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about Clemson because I was pretty high on them coming into the season. I have to admit, I know everybody hates Dabo. I've got kind of a soft spot for him because I hate the transfer portal. So I respect the fact that he stubbornly doesn't use the transfer portal. So I was like, man, I hope this team does well. But then when I actually watched them during the season, I was like, God, yeah, they're not very good.
No, you don't utilize
the transfer portal. I talk about the cream of that conference is not that great.
Yep.
And that was not who SMU faced. They faced the middle and the bottom of the ACC.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this is what I'll say too about especially their offensive line, but we're also talking their D line and their run D because it's respected. And I'll say this: Clemson averaged 180 yards rushing every game. They held them. SMU's defense held them to 64 yards rushing. So yes, it is a good front. Now at the same time, I came in to the Big Ten championship saying, "Oh my God, I'm scared that Oregon's front seven is going to eat us alive."
Yes, sir.
And we ran for 300 yards, and I just so much credit to Coach Trout, to Nick Dawkins, and the whole crew up front.
But they all had food poisoning, I'm told. I saw that exchange. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some guy was in there.
Was that
the conspiracy theorist in your mentions on Twitter was like, oh, you don't realize they all had food poisoning. I was like, okay.
I saw it in a couple places that people were saying like Oregon players had food poisoning. I heard nothing of the sorts, but you're on Twitter enough, like you and I are. You start to hear things like that. But yeah, I think they're good. But at the same time, they just don't have the size. They don't necessarily have the skill. This is a team that is 1 year removed from being in the AAC, which is a group of 5 conference. And the biggest change is when you go from a group of 5 to a Power 4 conference, you can get the skill players. You can get some speedy guys. Kevin Jennings is one hell of a player and one of their only non-transfer portal players. They're homegrown guys that they actually recruited. But, all of that is really – for SMU, that's all fine. But it's like when you line up in the cold weather here in Beaver Stadium, can your guys up front outwill our guys? And what I saw from Oregon, I think the answer is no. I think our guys are going to dominate them. I don't think there's going to be at all a change in the mindset. And like I said, we're just playing less talented. And college football is very week to week now. So don't get me wrong. I'm not just going to compare Oregon to SMU and be like, oh, just because of that, we should just dominate on the run.
Right.
Because they're not as good. But just from what I've seen, they're not that talented on the back end as far as linebackers, as far as DBs trying to plug and fill the holes. And then just schematically, they just don't have the same coaches. I mean, when we played Jim Knowles at Ohio State, some of the things that he did was like toying with us, was like, wow, okay. When I went to look at it on film, it was like, okay, this guy knew what he was doing. I just don't think they have those level of coaches either. So I think a lot of factors kind of added into that. But then there's also the days that we felt like we should have dominated on the ground game, and you look and it's like, why do Nick and Katron both have under 2 yards per carry?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to say, would I be, completely shocked if that happened tomorrow? Not necessarily, just because we haven't had the most consistent ground game all year. And it felt like those first 5 weeks, and especially after Illinois, it was like, yo, did our offensive line even like lose a step, or did we actually go? Were we even better than last year? And it's like, no, we have Olu Fashanu's clamping down $140 million pass rusher right now, and Caden Wallace unfortunately got injured, but would be the starting tackle for the Patriots. So, no, they're not necessarily better but I think there was a little bit of a smokescreen just because of
but
who
the
we
drop
played.
off from last year to this year still leaves you with an offensive line that is more capable and dominant than a lot of the starting groups we had on contending teams in years past. And when you talk about what's the difference between 2022 up through the present versus 2016 through like 2019 era, to me, it's not that we've always had top level athletes at various starting positions on all of those teams. The depth and the drop off from your first to your second to even your third team is night and day. I think at Penn State now versus where we were, I think that's a big advantage for us versus SMU, especially when you talk about the weather as a factor, which maybe gets a little bit overplayed, but it's also like a non-zero issue. And if you are bringing up guys, if you're spelling your starters, especially in positions where you're rotating talent, linebacker, the defensive line against a mobile quarterback, and a team that wants to try to run to set up the pass. If you are lining up a backup who is as good or better than their best talent, and you're keeping everybody fresh in that weather, and you're just grinding them down in that home environment where you haven't had to travel and the crowd is behind you and you're used to playing in those conditions, I think over 4 quarters, it starts to stack for Penn State.
I think it will. And this is a team at SMU that obviously had fought back against Clemson in the ACC championship. So you're not going to say they're just going to lay down. But I kind of feel like they are. If we get up in this game, they're kind of, it's very cold. They're somewhat, I'm not going to say you're not expecting to lose, but when you are the clear underdog and you get punched in the mouth and you're down 10, it's a lot easier to lay down and just be like, okay, I don't really care anymore. And it's like, whatever.
Well, and I love talking about, like history and narrative and whatever, and like the Cotton Bowl and 82, they were 11-0-1, conference pride. These guys are all transfers. They don't know or care anything about that. They're mercenaries who are there for a paycheck. They're not playing for the pride of Southern Methodist University.
There's no culture there, man.
No, they're paying for the zeros on the bottom line, and which, again, I get it, but.
Yeah, Big Ten Spirit says if anybody had food poisoning in the Big Ten championship, it was Kobe King. If no one saw it, if you're referring to the fact that Kobe King blew chunks on the field.
I love it.
And then, unfortunately, they threw a touchdown on that same play.
Yeah.
Booch, I put this out on Twitter. I was getting massacred a bit.
Okay.
The fact that I saw many of people, even Penn State football, put out the post, basically insinuating that in 1948, when Matsui made the statement, he actually didn't even say we are.
Steve but Steve shouts to Matt, who's
an
85 Bear Super Bowl champ.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got there's in State High, there's 2 golden footballs, alumni who won Super Bowl, Jordan Norwood and Matsui.
Wow. Yep. Okay. Shout out to Suey's. I think I met Larry recently. Larry, is that a name?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, sir.
Shout out to Suey's. Legendary. Anyway, so when he made the statement of saying, there was going to be maybe a meeting, there has never been a black player to play in the Cotton Bowl at that point, and there was no meeting, came out and said, we're Penn State. He didn't even say we are Penn State. He just said we're Penn State.
Right.
So people have said for years now that is where the origin of we are Penn State came from.
Yep.
That's not the truth.
No,
it's not. And I had people, and I put out there, I said it came from the Penn State cheerleaders in the mid-'70s. And honestly, they kind of slightly stole it probably from USC cheerleaders and like Ohio State cheerleaders. And, really the idea was trying to get the crowd involved.
Sure.
Because that wasn't a thing. The chants, that wasn't, a thing back then.
Nope.
So that was the way, how can we get them involved? That is genuinely how we are started. Now, I agree with the statement that, yes, if you want to say culturally and foundationally, what he said that day, what Suey said that day, is that what we are is? Absolutely. Yep. That completely embodies everything. So it's a great story. And that's why I see whoever decided marketing to tie the two together and say that that's where we are started. It was a great idea. And it's fantastic. But as a journalist, who's now a true journalist, not just a student journalist, I feel like I have to put the truth out there.
You feel like you have to be upfront with the audience to say, hey, look, this is a real thing that happened. It's incredible that it happened. That team and Wally's effort and his season and him and Dennis Hogard and what they did at Penn State, that's all real. It's all worthy of celebration, and it's solely consistent with the spirit of We Are Penn State and the school spirit that existed then and that we still talk about today. And so I'll tell you what I tell my Penn State football history class when we get to this. I tell them the same thing. I tell them, like, just between you, me, and the lamppost, like, this is fake. It did not inspire the We Are chant. But number one, like, I think it was Mark Twain that said, when fact and myth contradict, print the myth. So, like, our ability to actually know the past is not that great to begin with. So I said, if you all want to leave this room and forget what I just told you and continue to tell the world this great story, and this is how we started doing We Are Penn State, that's inspiring, and it's not nearly as sexy as like cheerleaders stole it from USC in the 70s. So like, go with God. I ain't going to correct you. I want you to know the truth. But to me, it doesn't even ultimately matter, because we say we are Penn State now to talk about the community of this university and this place and our alumni. Yep. And all of that is embodied in the story of Steve Suey and Wally Triplett and the 47 team in that Cotton Bowl. So
exactly.
That's where
I'm right there with you. It works perfectly, which is, I think, why they went that route. But yes, I am the strong.
But I saw you. I think you're going to hammer it from both sides.
Oh yeah,
too.
I was. There was no win there, but I was like, I don't care. I was like, the journalist in me, I was like, I'm putting this out there. That is not actually how it worked. But some people want you to lie and just say, like, if it's 100%, it's all true. But George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, and anybody who says otherwise is a liar. And then other people who are like, George Washington never even saw a cherry tree. So if you even mention it, like, you are being academically dishonest, like you're falsifying the historical record, and all of those people are nuts and they're wrong. The truth is in the middle. So Landon's right, and anybody who disagrees with him is wrong. There you go. Hey, there you go. Absolutely. And I think, like you said, Onward State has been printing that's the story.
Yeah.
I think 50 years from now.
They said it in freshman orientation. And
that was the craziest thing. When we all came in, the players had to go to freshman.
We're all going to kick the bucket, and that's what everyone is going to remember 50 years from now.
Is that how history works? Like, how much? This
100%.
type of stuff. This type of stuff makes me think, like, how much of the history books that we learned is actually real?
That's my point. Most of it is fake. And so if it makes you feel good to say that Wally Triplett inspired the We Are chant, like, you're not hurting anybody. It's fine. It's fine. And there will always be like 3 pedants in the comments to inform you that that's not true. So there's balance in the world. It's a big tent in our fandom. You're all welcome. I was kidding about right and wrong. Everybody's right, except for the SMU fans who are totally wrong.
Yes, or the SEC. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, all right, Booch. All right, let's get back to SMU for a second here.
Okay. Yeah.
Saturday. By the way, Joe Paterno would be 98 on Saturday. So I just want to give credit. The reason we were all here, the reason why Penn State is what it is Joe Paterno. So deserves that for sure. Booch, I think it's time for a random number generator. Okay. For those that don't know, that is what Booch and the boys on their show call score predictions, because
nobody cares. It's all nonsense.
Might as well be a random number generator. But if you had to put a little bit of your thought into this one from what you've seen, gather all the hotel prices and somehow all that matters.
Yeah, there are going to be 50 people in the stadium.
What are you thinking? What is your score prediction for this game, Booch?
I think I said 31-24 on the show. Let's make it 34-24. Make it a little more comfortable.
Okay.
But I think SMU, look, it's a 12-team playoff for the national championship. I don't want there to be any pushovers. I think this is going to be a good test for our team, but I also think they're better, and they got a home field advantage, and they're moving on.
I'm right there with you. I will go. I'll go 34-20 Penn State.
Okay.
I think it'll be typical Penn State, somewhat close at halftime. I think SMU. I think will be up by 3 or 7 at halftime, and then we just turn it on. I think the run game, if we can be consistent with that after and start to make them one-dimensional. Their quarterback Kevin Jennings, 3 turnovers in the last 4 games. He is running around. He kind of has a little bit of like early Deshaun Watson in him. Franklin called him Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call Franklin. I don't know if that was him just being nice, but this guy resembles nothing of Lamar Jackson. I don't know. Hey, Coach, I hope you're watching tape. Listen, I'm not calling you out, but there's no Lamar and Kevin Jennings. It really does remind me of a young Deshaun Watson. Of like, actually, he might be more like older Deshaun Watson because he can escape, but sometimes he just makes the dumbest mistakes you'll ever see. The interception he threw in the Clemson game was abysmal. So I think Kevin Jennings will give us the opportunity to get Drew Aller and company the ball in plus territory. If we can do that once, maybe even twice, I think this game won't be close.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, if you want to give a but, if we have 0 turnovers from them, and even if we give them one and they win the turnover battle, that's where I think this game could be close. But if we even get 1 or we win the turnover battle by 2, don't even think this game is close. I think we can run the ball on them, and we'll get out of here a win and head to the Fiesta Bowl that I think a lot of fans clearly are saving their money for, I guess. I don't know. We will see. Could someone pass? Oh, number of sacks. Oh, TFLs and sacks. Oh, man. I'll just go Abdul Carter. I'm going Abdul Carter 3 sacks.
You stole my thunder.
Oh, that was you.
Absolutely. I mean, he's so angry about finishing second and all these defensive. Zero holding
he said, how many holding calls? None.
Zero.
Hey, well, that's actually a conversation we have. SEC refs, no Big Ten refs this weekend.
Yeah, well, just get the number of downs right, then, please. If you got an SEC officiating.
Oh, I posted that recently.
4 downs.
Yes, when we played Auburn in 21, the ref stole a down from us. It was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. All right, Booch, I appreciate you stopping by.
Oh, my pleasure.
We are about to wrap this up, but we are here at Campus Stakes on Pew Street. I will tell you guys, Nick Dawkins. We have the Penn State Signature Player Cup. We have came out with 7 of these cups. We have a ton of different players, some really good guys. We're always in here for signings. We have Nick Dawkins in here early Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. to 9:30. So stop by if you're in State College. Normally, we go 10 a.m. The boys have practice. That is already scheduled. Just put that out there.
Yes,
but nonetheless, Nick Dawkins is here. 1,000 people came through for this in the live stream, YouTube, all that stuff. Appreciate, love you guys. You know I will be on Twitter and all that good stuff. I just dropped my first video behind the wheel with Dom DeLuca, so go check that out.
Oh, nice.
That was good laughs in there, former roommates, so that's a good one. And then I will have a Caroline Jaravicious game on video coming out as well tomorrow night for you guys. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. We will talk to you soon. Check me and Booch out on Twitter. Booch, Twitter, where can they follow you?
You'll figure it out. I'm not going to try to spell it on the stream. It's my last name, so good luck. I'll just say go Hoosiers and go State.
There you go. All right, let's do it. Appreciate you guys. We will talk soon.